I have a dream of turning the 26 plus acres of land which my company Antigua Hangars Inc. owns around runway 10, turning it into a Liat Aviation Complex, a place where Liat can now grow on its own ground and go to the next level of a revenue generating airline. I plan to make Liat, to quote The Godfather, an offer they can't refuse. Our complex here, the location is ideal. Runway 10 intersects the main runway. It is a most picturesque peninsula, which, as you know, was owned by Alan Stanford, and which I got in settlement of lots of cases that I had against him. And I also bought some of the land around from the sale of my FBO. Now, I've always felt that it was a travesty to have Antigua's airport land sold to anybody. And so when I had to receive it in exchange for the cases, because the liquidators didn't have cash to pay me, I found myself owning the very thing that I felt should never be owned. I've spent the last 4 years restoring and keeping the property for turning it back to the government of Antigua, because I'm an aviator, aviation-minded person, and I know that airport lands should not be sold. As a matter of fact, airport lands should be further increased for the development of aviation, which, as you know, is a very fast-growing industry. Personally, I see Liat having a headquarters and a big MRO through which they can facilitate the overhaul of their aircraft. It would mean that they will increase their revenues, while at the same time be providing a lot more employment and creating what would end up being a base through which they can develop new areas of revenue. We are currently negotiating. I'm talking to the various levels, because in my business I know that if management cannot sell it to the board cannot sell it to the shareholder governments. And so I'm working at the level of management. Management will justify it. But I will tell you that it's not anything new. Liat has been looking for ways and means of setting up their own MRO. They lost a hangar. They have not been able to replace that hangar. The other hangar is overworked. They definitely need a location, and they need a location fast. In the most recent meeting with the heads of governments and CDB, one of the major areas of discussion was Liat, our regional carrier, and moving it to the next level. As a matter of fact, the talks since then continued at the heads of government meeting in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And it is a constant right now. Liat is at the crossroads. It is in a very critical stage right now. And so, quite frankly, it's their decision. If they walk in tomorrow, I pack up and move out tomorrow. There's very little for me to pack up here other than myself, you know. And I want to see this thing happen. I want to see it happen real fast. And I do know that Liat is extremely needy as far as, you know, a hangar is concerned. So I expect to get some traction. I am getting traction already as far as the need is concerned. Mm-hmm. And I expect to get it at every level. I think the main problem that Liat has is, you know, our governments don't have any money to pump into Liat. And so every time they're pumping subventions, they take it out by taxes. What I'm saying is this: if we don't give Liat a chance to become a real airline, we'll be struggling with it forever. And I think that, you know, a lot of the heads right now, I have a lot of faith in the new Prime Minister of Barbados, who is a large shareholder. And women tend to see things from a less selfish standpoint and to see it from how it would benefit the whole. I also have expect, our prime ministers of St. Vincent and Dominica to look at how this will impact Liat as a whole and the region as a whole. They're the shareholder governments, but I would like to see something come out of this whereby the other governments who are benefiting from Liat feel confident enough to invest in Liat, because this is what they're saying. They're saying that they don't feel confident. They expect Liat to serve them, but they're not prepared to put their hands in their pockets and help Liat lift Liat. So I'm hoping that if a private sector enterprise sees the importance, that they too will hop on board. I see the carrier taking the lead in, they're already carrying more passengers than, the other small carriers who are trying to come into the Liat route system right now. But I see Liat hopefully using their base to develop better relations with the other carriers in the region, and especially those who are going into the ATR fleet too. Liat will become the leader as such because they have the largest ATR fleet at the moment, and so they have the confidence of the French company that produces this plane. And they'll be able to use that to build relations with the other ATR operators in the region, as they're already doing right now. Liat has their sources, as far as other people don't understand that business today is based on your business plan. And if you can show ways of making money, the banks are bursting at the seams, and I'm not talking about ordinary banks. I'm talking about development banks. I'm talking about, the EU. I'm talking about Caribbean Development Bank. Those are the areas that I see Liat being able to approach with a proper business plan that shows new areas of revenue.